Here are today's top stories. Joint Task Force NCR is all set for this year's Traslacion of the Black Nazarene in Manila. Security preparations for the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite are already in place. President Duterte reiterates his call to establish a department that will manage disaster preparedness. And displaced residents of Marawi City receive sewing equipment and other livelihood packages.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Preparations are in full swing as millions of devotees are expected to participate in this year's Traslacion in Manila. Authorities have ensured to keep peace and order for the millions who are joining the parade. Janice Cave has the story.
About 2,000 soldiers will be deployed by Joint Task Force NCR to maintain peace and order in the Traslacion 2019. The AFP is coordinating with the Manila Police District to secure the parade as it monitors any possible security threat. As part of security preparations, the NCRPO has discouraged devotees and spectators from bringing backpacks, valuables, liquor, illegal drugs, and deadly weapons into the parade. A liquor ban has been implemented starting 7 p.m. tonight and throughout the Black Nazarene procession. The areas around the parade will also be a no-fly, no-sail zone. Meanwhile, about 1,000 Red Cross volunteers will keep watch for injuries and other medical emergencies among the participants. The Traslacion 2019 will start on January 9 at 7 a.m. at the Quirino Grandstand and will end at the Minor Basilica of the Black Nazarene via Plaza Miranda. The southbound lane of Quezon Boulevard and Espana Boulevard westbound is already closed to traffic starting today. Katigbak Drive, South Drive, and Independence Road around Quirino Grandstand will be closed during the Pahalik tomorrow, January 8, as well as the northbound lane of Quezon and MacArthur Bridge and Taft Avenue from Ayala Boulevard to Bonifacio Shrine. On Wednesday, the day of the procession, the roads that will be closed to traffic are the stretch of MacArthur, Jones and Quezon Bridge, Rojas Boulevard from Katigbak to Calao Street, Quezon Boulevard from A. Mendoza and Fugoso southbound, and Taft Avenue and Ayala for northbound. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
The government sees a slim chance of reviving the stalled peace talks with the Communist Party of the Philippines. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says the CPP-NPA continues to commit atrocities and threatens to oust President Rodrigo Duterte. He says CPP founder Jose Maria Sison and his people should show some sincerity. He described Sison's call to oust Duterte hollow and that the CPP-NPA is losing to the government's anti-insurgency campaign. President Duterte has consistently said that he would reopen the talks if he believes there is a compelling reason to do so. Among the president's conditions for the talks are no attacks on government forces and civilians, no extortion, no destruction of property, and talks should be held here in the Philippines. The Department of Health says fireworks-related injuries have risen to 319 this holiday season. 31 more cases were recorded in various regions from January 3 to January 5. The victims mostly involved males aged between 2 and 76 years old. The DOH has recorded 2 cases of firecracker ingestion. Majority of the victims suffered from blasts or burns. 11 resulted in amputation, while the rest suffered from eye injuries. Quitis caused the most number of injuries. The DOH said this year's record is 38% less in the same period of last year. The Philippine National Police, or PNP, has in custody the 6 suspects tagged in the killing of Ako Bicol Party List Representative Rodel Batocabe and his security escort SPO2 Orlando Diaz. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde says 2 more suspects identified as Rolando Arimado and Danilo Muela have surrendered to authorities. Arimado was tagged as lookout and backup gunman in the assassination of Batocabe. Muela, on the other hand, was a trusted security aide of Daraga Mayor Carlwin Baldo. He is identified as the suspect who purchased 2 pistols used in the said murder. Only Baldo, who was tagged as the mastermind, has yet to surrender. Cases of double murder and multiple frustrated homicide were filed in Albay against Baldo and the 6 others. Russian Navy vessels arrive in Manila for a goodwill visit, and customs agents intercept luxury vehicles smuggled from Japan. More on these and other news around the metro from Miguel Hill.
3 Russian naval vessels arrived at Pier 9 South Harbor, Manila for a 5-day goodwill visit from January 6 to 11. Commodore Toribio Adasi Jr. led the welcoming ceremony. This is the Russian Navy's first visit this year and the 7th since 2012. Meanwhile, customs agents in the port of Cebu intercepted a shipment containing 4 undeclared luxury vehicles from Japan. The shipment, imported by Kyle Milan General Merchandise at Malabon City, arrived at Port of Cebu last month. The smuggled vehicles were suspected to be misdeclared as a single piece of a car body. Charges are being prepared against the importer. In other news, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. met with U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton to deepen Philippines-U.S. ties. The 2 officials recognized the role of the 2 nations' alliance in maintaining regional peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The meeting comes a week after the Department of National Defense called for the review of the Mutual Defense Treaty between the U.S. and the Philippines. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
Still to come, shooting enthusiasts raise funds for victims of Typhoon Rosita in Mountain Province. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues. Security preparations for the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite are already in place. AFP Chief of Staff Benjamin Madrigal says the military and PNP are applying the finishing touches of their security plan. Madrigal says they will meet with the Defense Department for an assessment of areas of concern. The military is also monitoring places prone to violence as well as those that are not voting to join the BOL. Meanwhile, no security threats against the plebiscite have been reported. The Clark International Airport needs about 6 billion pesos worth of investments for the improvement of its new terminal building. Once completed, the new building is expected to serve around 8 million passengers or double the current capacity of its existing terminal. The new terminal will also feature a brand new commercial area that carries global brands and a curated selection of retail and food and beverage outlets. The North Luzon Airport Consortium is confident that the improvement in Clark Airport will boost tourism and lead to economic growth in northern and central Luzon. The construction of the new terminal is expected to be completed by 2020. The newly rehabilitated port in Tubigon at Bohol Province reopened its operations on Saturday. The repair and renovation of the port was fast-tracked in 9 months following an inspection conducted by Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade in March 2018. The port can now accommodate 28 ships and has 3 roll-on, roll-off wharfs for docking, landing craft tanks, and barges. Its air-conditioned passenger terminal building can serve about 4,000 passengers daily. Other improvements are childcare stations, enhanced security facilities, and a one-stop shop for clearing and payment of port charges. The Tubigon port was closed down for repairs due to damages it sustained during the magnitude 7.2 earthquake 5 years ago. Police in the Davao region plan to implement checkpoint operations as part of security measures for the election period starting January 19. Police Regional Office 11 Chief Superintendent Marcelo Morales has ordered all city and provincial chiefs to maintain checkpoints 24/7. He reminded police officers manning the checkpoints to rigorously observe the guidelines set by the Commission on Elections. These include wearing a full uniform and setting up checkpoints in well-lighted areas. The COMELEC and the police are also set to implement the election gun ban, which prohibits people except for on-duty cops and high-risk personnel from bearing, carrying, and transporting firearms. Morales also called on political candidates and their supporters to avoid clashes during the campaign period, which kicks off on February 13. Gun enthusiasts gather in Benguet to raise funds for typhoon victims. Meanwhile, Camiguin celebrates its founding anniversary with a tree planting ceremony. More on these stories from the provinces from Janice Cabe.
In Benguet, gun enthusiasts gathered for the Shoot Fest for a cause at Camp Bado Dangwa in La Trinidad. The proceeds will be used to help victims of Typhoon Rosita last October in Mountain Province. PCOO Assistant Secretary Marie Rafael appealed to participants to help in the rehabilitation of the attached towns. In Camiguin, the provincial government celebrated its upcoming 51st founding anniversary with a tree planting activity. About 10,000 seedlings were planted within the province's declared watersheds. Governor Maria Luisa Romualdo says the tree planting signifies the island's initiatives to protect the environment. In Zamboanga City, police arrested a son of a mayoralty candidate for illegal drugs in a manhunt operation. Ashraf Kaizar Iqbala, son of retired Chief Superintendent Sukarno Iqbala, yielded some 100,000 pesos worth of illegal drugs. The younger Iqbala was already the subject of an arrest warrant connected to 2 illegal drugs charges last year. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cabe.
Up next, President Duterte reiterates his call to establish a department that will manage disaster preparedness. Coach Chot Reyes denies rejoining his former team. Talk and text. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders. President Rodrigo Duterte reiterates his call for the creation of a Department of Disaster Management. The president expressed anew his plan to transform the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council into a regular department. President Duterte was in Pili, Camarines Sur after inspecting areas that were devastated by Tropical Depression Usman. In his third State of the Nation address last year, Duterte appealed to Congress to pass a measure that will allow the creation of an agency that will have more power than the NDRRMC. The House of Representatives has already passed a bill on the creation of a disaster department. However, the Senate is still deliberating on its version of the bill. In our foreign news, the Yellow Vest protests in Paris continue as hundreds of women were spotted downtown a day after an anti-government march was held in the French capital. The predominantly female crowd blocked traffic as they marched around the streets. The small gathering followed a major rally last January 5 involving some 3,000 protesters who have been campaigning against high living costs for the 8th week. The Yellow Vest movement started as a protest against a planned hike in diesel taxes, which the French government eventually cut. In sports, Coach Chot Reyes refutes report that he is returning to his former team, Talk and Text. Reyes denied that he is rejoining the Katropa following reports that he is serving as an advisor for the next PBA season. He says he was only asked to facilitate a training camp in Tagaytay, similar to what he has been doing with other companies. The 8-time PBA mentor last coached Talk and Text from 2008 to 2012 before handling Gilas Pilipinas as head coach. More displaced residents in Marawi City are getting a new chance to start over. This as the government distributes additional livelihood packages for those who hope to rebuild their businesses. Laid Kabagani has the report.
The Department of Trade and Industry continues the distribution of sewing machines and stitching kits to the internally displaced persons and returned residents of Marawi City. Since October of 2018, DTI has already distributed a total of 1,800 sewing machines with 5,000 pesos worth of sewing kits consist of needles, tailoring scissors, tape measures, threads, tailor's chalks, hand needles, and cloths. Salmia de Barosan is one of the beneficiaries received livelihood assistance from DTI.
Magpasalamat kami sa DTI kasi binigyan kami ng hanap buhay namin na mga magnanahi. Maraming salamat po sa DTI.
De Barosan is a resident of Barangay Daguduban, which belongs to the most affected area during Marawi siege. She used to be a dressmaker back then before the siege happened. De Barosan plans to start anew with the livelihood support she received from DTI. Meanwhile, DTI has already handed Carinderia starter kits, food carts, sari-sari store kits, and street food businesses for the Marawi residents as part of the rehabilitation and recovery efforts of the government for the war-torn city. For PNA Newsroom, Laid Kabagani, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's top stories.
Joint Task Force NCR is all set for this year's Traslacion of the Black Nazarene in Manila. Security preparations for the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite are already in place. President Duterte reiterates his call to establish a department that will manage disaster preparedness. And Displaced residents of Marawi City receive sewing equipment and other livelihood packages.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.